Here with Vincent Brown ahead of Saturday's road game at Monroe. Coach, appreciate the time. Let's recap Thaddeus Stevens briefly. A tough day weather-wise, tough day for your offense. Just talk a little bit about what you guys learned about your team last week on the road at Thaddeus Stevens and how you hope to carry that through the rest of the year.
Well, as always, Walker, thankful and blessed for another week, right? So, Thaddeus Stevens week, we felt like our preparation going into the game was good. We knew we had to change a couple different positions and up front on our offensive line and defensive line. So we knew we needed some guys to step up. The weather, we'll never make excuse about the weather. This game is played in weather in the snow, and I think it adds a little bonus to it. You have to prepare for it. And we got out there in pregame. I seen guys dropping the ball. We said, hey, you got to look it in. This is time to really focus on the things that you need to. But at the end of the day, both teams had to play in the weather, so it's never an excuse. The biggest factor of it all was turnovers. I mean, let's just be honest. I think we controlled them off of an early turnover. Defense stood up. They kicked a field goal out of it, but we didn't give a big touchdown up, and so I was proud of that effort. But at the end of the day, those guys, hats off to Thaddeus Stevens. They wanted this game. They got one for their coach, and those guys lived in the moment of the weather. They didn't care about the weather. They were there ready to play. And just some of our guys, we got to find time to get that mental toughness, and you create that in the off season. And that's on me and my coaching staff. We got to get our guys prepared and just a mindset that these young men got to have to play that type of game, a physical game. We knew we weren't going to be able to pass the ball. The quarterback couldn't grip the ball. And the running backs apparently couldn't hold on to him as well. And then in special teams, every time we turned the ball over, it seemed that it was happening on their plus side of going in. And then you just can't do that in any game. So we cleaned that up this week, and we look to bounce back and prepare for another contest.
Well, this Monroe team is having a pretty good season, 4-2 on the year, very athletic. As I know you've seen on film, just talk about some of the challenges you're going to face when you go to play the Mustangs on Saturday.
Well, when you talk about Monroe, you're talking about a team that traditionally makes it to the playoffs in their division. Those guys play hard, and it's probably some of the fastest receivers and athletes that we've seen all year. I mean, some of those guys, as you know, Walker, with their situation, they're trying to get to the next level. And so those guys put the work in. We've been watching them on film all week, and they can go. And so we had to really get into our bag with our schemes, me and the defensive coordinator, Coach Tim. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we have to get back. I still challenge our guys to see a full Builders football, and until our guys completely buy in, we know we had some issues with the receivers early on with injury. He had some changes with the O-line, and then we had a great room with the running backs. But now we got to understand that, hey, it's running back by committee. You got to be ready to go when your numbers call. And so I'm confident that we'll get it going, and we need to for these seniors.
You talked about the defensive effort last week against Thaddeus Stevens. This week, like you mentioned, some of the fastest receivers that we may have seen all year. Just talk about how that defensive backfield that has played really well throughout this season is going to have to do to be able to slow down that wide receiver core that the Mustangs have and keep this game on the lower scoring side, not letting them score their average of about 40 points a game.
I think consistency and being ready to live in the moment. You got to be up for a challenge when you're going against this receiving core. They're a spread offense, but then they'll line up in double tights and try to run it down your throat as well. So after seeing that Thaddeus Stevens game, I'm thinking that they're going to be a balanced offense, but we have to prepare for both. And our guys, I know we're going to have them in the best position to make plays. And then, as I always tell the guys, you guys got to go out there and play the game, and you guys have to come together and find a way to push through. Let's not find an excuse. We had a couple guys, like I said, we had to move around a couple pieces, but those guys know, like all of our guys are challenged each week, is to prepare yourself the right way. Study film, work your tail off at practice, make sure you travel well, do the little things that I ask you to do, and then be prepared to go play the game that you say you love. And so that's what it's all about. I feel confident. Those guys had a good practice yesterday in the back end, and guys are really starting to understand what we want to get accomplished. So I'm looking forward to it.
As you hit the road for the final time this season, what's your biggest key going into this game to try and get back in the win column before you finish the year with 3 straight at home?
Number 1 is protect the football. We got to protect the football. You can't turn the football over. Number 2 is that we got a little chippy at Thaddeus Stevens, and I get it. It was a physical game, but we cannot have the silly penalties. One penalty cost us an opportunity from going from 3rd down to 1st down to being on the opposite side of the field going in. And until our young men start to understand that and really understand the game of football, that is a game of inches, then we're going to struggle there. So I've challenged guys to step up, to hold themselves accountable, but we really have to just go play physical football, dominant on defense as far as putting hands on guys and getting after this quarterback, and on offense being a balanced attack like we can be, running the ball and then making plays on the outside with the receivers.
Coach, best of luck on Saturday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Walker. Appreciate it.